TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel warns leaders of the Islamist Hamas organization that their proactive involvement in terror against Israelis in Judea and Samaria may reignite Jerusalem's policy of targeted killings. Unidentified aircraft reportedly strike at Aleppo International Airport in yet another aerial bombardment, which Damascus attributes to Israel. Relations between Stockholm and Jerusalem are seemingly on an upward trajectory. Heightened tensions remain on Israel's separate fronts, including vis-a-vis the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip. IDF, ISA, and Border Police Special Operations units conducted extensive counter-terrorist activities throughout the West Bank districts of Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley over the weekend, during the course of which a total of 19 suspected terror operatives were successfully apprehended. Moreover, according to separate statements released by the IDF spokesperson's unit, a number of instances were cited in which Palestinian militants opened fire toward Israeli forces who responded with live fire. Thankfully, no injuries were reported to the Israeli troops. Meanwhile, in light of the involvement of the Islamist Hamas organization in a number of deadly acts of terror that claimed Israeli civilian lives, Jerusalem leveled a clear threat to the leadership of the internationally designated terror group. Unless terror against Israeli civilians and troops ceases, Israel will resume its policy of targeted killings of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad leaders. The threat, which was relayed to the Hamas leadership via Egyptian mediation, drew a response from Gaza and Lebanon. Hamas Deputy Politburo Chief Saleh al-Arouri, who is in charge of Hamas activities throughout the West Bank districts of Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley, as well as Lebanon, asserted in a televised address that the leadership of the Islamist group won't affect the group's activity. He proclaimed that all of Hamas's leadership is willing to die a martyr's death in the battle against Israel. Moreover, al-Arouri, who is currently hiding in a bunker in Beirut under Hezbollah's protection, went on to declare that Hamas is prepared to escalate the situation vis-a-vis Israel, and that the next war with Israel will unite all of the axis of Palestinian resistance, which would deal an unprecedented blow to the Jewish state that would bring about its demise. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to the threat leveled at Israel by the deputy head of Hamas.
I heard the verbiage by the senior Hamas official Arouri from his hiding place in Lebanon. He knows very well why he and his colleagues are in hiding. Hamas and the other Iranian proxies understand very well that we will fight with all means against their attempts to use terrorism against us, in Judea and Samaria, Gaza, and everywhere else. Whoever tries to hurt us, whoever finances and organizes, whoever dispatches terrorists against Israel will pay the full price.
It is important to highlight that while Egyptian officials are working extensively behind the scenes to alleviate tensions between Hamas and Israel, the Israeli security establishment is working tirelessly to prepare Israel for an all-out war, particularly as part of the commonly referred to Mabam, which is the Hebrew acronym for the campaign between the wars. As part of these activities, which also include counter-terror activities throughout Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley, the ISA cleared for publication that it had arrested 4 Israeli Arab citizens who've been apprehended last month after incriminating evidence proved that the suspects smuggled weaponry into Israel and the so-called West Bank at the behest of Iran and its Lebanese proxy Hezbollah. According to a senior ISA official who spoke on condition of anonymity, this affair once again illustrates the efforts by Iranian and Hezbollah terror elements to exploit Arab citizens of Israel for the purpose of conducting terror activity against the state. Moreover, the investigation once again revealed that there is a fine line between terror and criminal organizations. Meanwhile, the ISA wrote in a statement, the Israel Security Agency will continue to act resolutely to detect and thwart any intention to smuggle weaponry by Hezbollah and Iran into Israel and will utilize all means at its disposal in order to thwart activity that endangers the security of the state of Israel and its citizens. Separately in Syria, unidentified aircraft launched a salvo of missiles toward the northern Aleppo International Airport in an aerial bombardment which the Damascus regime attributed to the Israeli Air Force. According to a Syrian military source who was quoted by the regime-run Sana news agency, at about 4:30 a.m., the Israeli enemy carried out an air aggression from the direction of the Mediterranean Sea west of Latakia, targeting Aleppo International Airport. According to the Syrian military source, the alleged Israeli strike led to material damage that rendered the airport's runway out of service. Separately, according to the London-headquartered Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, the Israeli strikes also targeted with 2 missiles weapons warehouses at the adjacent Nairab military airport, which witnessed during the last period the movement of helicopters towards the Syrian desert. It is worth noting that while Syria's aerial defense array was triggered, the incoming projectiles penetrated those air defenses, and all of the targets were reportedly struck. It is further important to note that the IDF spokesperson's unit did not confirm or deny its alleged responsibility in response to TV7's request for comment. Returning to Jerusalem, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also utilized his opening remarks to the weekly cabinet meeting to highlight the importance for Israel to unite in the face of foreign and domestic terror.
I would also like to appeal to the citizens of Israel. We are facing waves of terrorism, both internal and external. These are not simple times. These are challenging times. We need to unite our forces against terrorism, against the crime in the Arab sector, against the external and internal threats that is being organized, to a large extent, by Iran via its proxies. If we stand together, we will prevail.
Netanyahu made these remarks after tens of thousands of Israelis took to the streets of Tel Aviv on Saturday night to protest against the government's planned judicial reform for the 34th consecutive week.
We are holding today the 34th protest for the 34th week in a row, trying to prevent our government from taking drastic acts that will destroy Israeli democracy as they plan. There are 225 different laws that they have been placed on the parliament desk that will change completely the face of the Israeli society in Israel.
Despite years of broad national sentiments of the need to rebalance the 3 branches of government in Jerusalem, since the Israeli judiciary managed to secure powers far exceeding its mandate, efforts to reach broad parliamentary consensus, which were brokered by Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog, collapsed roughly a month and a half ago. Since then, efforts to revive dialogue between representatives of the coalition and opposition have borne no fruit. In other news, relations between Stockholm and Jerusalem are seemingly on a positive upward trajectory. 3.5 months after Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen met with his Swedish counterpart Tobias Billström in Stockholm, during which both top diplomats declared a new page in relations between Israel and Sweden, a delegation of Swedish parliamentarians visited Jerusalem today, during the course of which they voiced their resolute aspiration to relocate their nation's embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hosted the Swedish delegation at his office in Jerusalem, warmly welcomed Stockholm's policy change toward the Jewish state.
I want to thank you for your great support and consistent support for Israel, and I'm glad to see there's a change in Swedish policy, and I think it's long overdue, not only for the sake of Israel and Swedish relations, but also for Sweden. I think that our partnership could yield great results in many, many areas, and I think this is an important beginning. So thank you and welcome.
While Swedish-Israeli relations are seemingly on a positive upward trajectory, diplomatic efforts to ratchet up Israel's regional integration regrettably faced backlash when a meeting between Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen and his Libyan counterpart Najla Mangoush was leaked to local media here in Israel. Picking up on the Israeli report, an uproar within Libya sparked anti-Israeli demonstrations throughout the country's capital, and local Libyans voiced their objection to normalize any kind of relations between Tripoli and Jerusalem.
Of course not. Honestly, we are against normalization. These Jews are our enemies. They displace the Palestinian people and treat them with no mercy and are giving them any part of their rights. We condemn this meeting with Israel, especially if the normalization was planned, and if this meeting really happened and it is not staged or something, then honestly, this is not acceptable to Libyans.
Following the backlash, Libya's Prime Minister Abdul Hamid al-Dbeiba suspended Foreign Minister Mangoush despite the fact that the Libyan premier had knowledge of the meeting, which was scheduled months in advance. In an official document issued by his office in Tripoli, Prime Minister al-Dbeiba claimed to have instructed the establishment of an investigative committee to probe his suspended top diplomat over her meeting with her Israeli counterpart. Nevertheless, according to Libyan reports, Najla Mangoush has since fled to Turkey. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to point out that TV7 Israel is a donation-based ministry. Therefore, if you're blessed by our productions and would like to help support keeping TV7 Israel on air, please consider making a donation. You can do so by visiting our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I would like to also encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, the salvation of Israel, and for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time.